San Diego, good afternoon. I'm Claire McKee, and this is Real Talk San Diego, bringing you the business of life in America's finest city. As always, this show is presented by our loyal partners at 5 Star Escrow and First American Title. And we've got a fun one for you today, guys. We are talking juicy stuff, and that is prenups. Yes, that's right, prenuptial agreements. Do you think they're great? Do you think they're a curse? Comment below. We want to hear from you. And I'm joined today to talk about prenups and much more. Marla Hovland, she's a realtor with City Mark Realty. Hi.
Hi, good to be here.
Glad to have you. And repeat offender, everyone knows Bonnie Mantell. She's a family law attorney at Primus Family Law. Hi.
Hi, Claire.
Good to
Glad
see you
to be
again.
back.
I know, we haven't had you in the saddle for a minute. You left me.
I did.
You had a birthday?
I had a birthday.
It's like I was chopped liver.
Well, you could come. You were invited.
I know, you're right. You're right. You were
Did she
kind
send
enough
a
to invite
card?
me.
No, and no
She
money
sent us-
either.
No money. Put me on the spot. And as always, we have Michael Mantell, Dr. Michael Mantell. He's a transformational behavior coach. Hi, Michael.
Hi, good to be back.
Glad to have you back.
Actually, nice to be staying next to Bonnie again. We'll see. We'll wait and see.
Don't eat your words.
Exactly,
But
right.
you went for her birthday party too.
We
didn't
had
you?
a great time. We were all together, yeah.
Most memorable moment. Let's hear it.
Oh, yeah, God.
Give me a flashback. They went to
I can't-
Vegas, to be
I
clear.
can't name names. I won't do that. But let's see, who fell most? Who was sick most? No,
It
we had a
wasn't
great
me.
we had a
Who
great
fell?
time. It was a wonderful time, great celebration.
I
So
fell
great.
over.
Lots of and yeah.
And I got a new tattoo.
And she got a new tattoo.
Did you?
For
What
your
is
birthday?
it?
It is the Hebrew symbol for life. It's a chai.
Cool. Very cool. On your shoulder? I think I did see that on your Facebook. 'Cause
Yes.
we're
Did you
homies.
see in the picture of myself that she put on her?
You
that?
got a matching tattoo?
No, she got picture. She put a
Oh,
picture
your
of
portrait
me.
is on her back.
Yes.
I knew
side.
it. She's been telling me over that
It's
she was going to do
amazing.
that
It's
for a while.
amazing.
I had to ask his
And
wife.
this is why prenups are so important.
Keeping us on
I
track,
wasn't in the
Michael.
deal.
Yeah.
Let's get back to it.
Keeping us on track. So, yes, happy belated birthday to both of you.
Yeah, thank you.
Glad you had fun. We're going to start off with 2 random questions, a little different than usual.
Oh, yeah.
I want to know, what are you thankful for today, right now? What is something you're thankful for? And then what is something you're most looking forward to? And I'm putting you all on the spot, so who wants to go first? Who wants to go first?
Okay, well, what am I thankful for today?
Right meow.
I am thankful for my husband and my family. They
Okay.
are
The best.
the best. They're exceedingly supportive, including my 14-and-a-half-year-old daughter.
And I will say, I'm also friends with your husband on Facebook, and he was so adorable the whole birthday weekend, documenting everything you were doing and giving you shout outs, and it was just warm and fuzzies all around. So shout out to Barry. Cool.
Shout out to
Okay,
Barry.
so that's what you're thankful for now. What are we most looking forward to? What's next?
Wow, what am I
Anything.
most looking forward to? I am most looking forward to crawling back into my really comfortable bed tonight. After
I
being
feel
away,
that way.
my bed is very comfy.
Every day when I leave, I'm like, I'll be back for you.
I'll miss you.
Totally. Marla, do you want to go next?
Oh gosh, what am I thankful for? I am thankful for, I'd have to say, I mean, I hate to be cliche with the kids.
Yeah.
I have a 7 and 9-year-old, and they are still young enough to think I'm awesome. I got them convinced for a little bit
lucky.
longer.
Well, soak that up.
Yeah, exactly.
Until they're critiquing the show later,
That's
right?
exactly right. Until we're sitting on the couch watching all of this, and they're like, "Mom, you're so why'd you even mention us?"
Better mention a name.
Say their names.
What
Yeah,
are their names?
exactly.
Oh, Bonnie. Look at you.
And Cadence and Kylan.
Oh, nice.
Yes, and I'm very excited. We're launching a new project, a 21-unit townhome in Golden Hill, and I actually wrote I'm excited because it's a lot of years of work. So when you go to sale, it's exciting. But I write in each project in the framing, somewhere hidden where, it's not readily seen, but a little message to them.
Oh, how sweet.
So their little messages are hidden in each little project that we've built around town.
Your heart and soul is in
That's
your
very
project.
sweet.
Yeah.
That's really special.
That's right. Let them know where I am. Mom was here.
Is that what you write?
Exactly. Yes.
Very touching.
Yeah.
I love it. Super cool. Michael, what about you? Something you're thankful for?
So as soon as you said that, the first thing I thought of, as silly as it is, but I'm as open as can be, last night we were freezing cold. I don't know how, it was really cold.
Brutal.
And we're talking about mattresses, and our mattress, we have a Tempur-Pedic mattress, which means it's like an ice cube. I was the biggest pain in the neck, as you can imagine. And I'm thankful for my wife, Paula, who put up with that because
She didn't suffocate you last night?
she didn't kill me. She didn't choke me. She just like you wanted another blanket. You want this. It was so. We've been married 47 years. I'm very thankful for her, and of course our children and grandchildren. And the other question, what am I looking forward to?
What are you looking forward to?
Well, I have a very big book signing tomorrow night here in La Jolla, actually.
Oh, great.
It's a private book signing. And I'm looking forward to that in a short range. But I'm always looking forward to creating new ways, honestly, truly, of helping people, of being able to communicate something very complex in the simplest way, and someone to say, wow, that makes so much sense. So I look forward to those kinds of things.
Absolutely. And on the book signing, it's not open to the public, so I can't tell people where to go right now?
You
You
could
have an
RSVP,
invitation.
though.
Okay.
You have an
Yeah.
invitation.
You just haven't RSVP'd.
Okay. So, you
No,
guys,
she's
We'll talk about it next time.
She'll do
I was going to say, you guys, I would say, you can go, but you can't. So,
Right.
moving on.
It's big.
Guys, if you like what you see, we're just getting started. So make sure to click follow if you're not already following us. That way you can be notified each time we go live. And we are on Facebook Live, so we want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Tell us we're doing a great job. Ask us questions, and we will address them on air for you. So we're going to dive right in. Marla Huffland, you are first, my dear. You're a realtor with City Mark Realty. Growing up in the East County of San Diego, graduating from San Diego State University, married and a mother of two very energetic young girls, living in San Diego at the beach is like living a dream for Marla. Her career path from real estate agent to new home salesperson to leading the City Mark Realty office has been a combination of true love for business, hard work, and dedication to a profession she believes in. Marla, why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about City Mark Realty? Just give us an overview.
So our parent company is City Mark Development, and we were founded just under 20 years ago, City Mark Development, by three really energetic San Diego guys. They were working for Shea Homes and for 15 to 20 years and really saw that flat land was disappearing. Ballpark had just gone up and they were looking to go vertical. So built some projects around the ballpark, at which point I came in off of a resale career and have had a long stint with City Mark. I've sold M2I, Fahrenheit, Aperture, and once we were there was, I don't know if you remember, there was a little shift in the market, and we had a hard time finding land and building anything, finding construction financing. So we looked at how are we going to stay alive. And one of the things we did is we started farming out some of the resources that we were better at doing ourselves, and trying to just continually serve the customers that we had sold homes to. So property management, nobody could maintain the buildings better than we can. We built them.
Sure.
And then our resale team. So we developed we have two little offices, one uptown, one downtown. Together it's our town, as we like to say. And
Awesome.
They're a great company. We've got local guys, Point Loma and Coronado. I born and raised here, 5th generation San Diegan.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's like unheard of.
We heard the weather was good here, and we
Yeah.
haven't left.
Yeah,
You caught on.
My great grandfather was chief of police in Lemon Grove.
Oh my goodness.
And so a very community-minded family. We're either in fire, life and safety, teachers, and or in sales.
Wow,
so
that's terrific.
found a great pocket for myself.
Very cool. And so you had the whole side of like the real estate, right?
I do, yes. So we have a team of resale agents that are out there working hard for City Mark. We're selling in our own buildings. We'll sell, anything. We're happy to work with you on any real estate needs you have. But of course, our primary focus is new development. So we have a project that we're kicking off in May. It's called Expo. It's right across the street from Balboa Park. We named it Expo because we broke ground 100 years to the date when the 1915 Exposition packed up and left. So we try to weave in a little bit, if we don't preserve a component of what maybe a historical benefit that's already existing, like Doma has the old clock tower in Little Italy. We preserve that. Then we try to figure out a way to weave it into to the story of the project.
Little piece of history in
Exactly.
there. So we are talking prenups today, and believe it or not, prenups do relate to real estate. So Maybe let's talk about what could happen if you don't put your property in the prenup, if that's all talked about.
So I think that's one thing that I have recently. I've been working with an attorney client who is a court-appointed partition referee, and that is who you see if you don't have a prenup and you've been arguing in court for too long and we can't find a resolution. Eventually the courts will assign a partition referee and somebody who will come in, and the last 2 cases I've had, they have essentially taken legal control of the property to the point where they could, with the sheriff's lockout at any given moment with the court's approval, they could lock out a non-compliant occupant. And then proceed to sell the property. So if you don't have a prenuptial agreement and you can't come to a resolution, it could still, the sale of your property can and will happen without you. And
Bonnie, I almost want to pick your brain on that too, because I would imagine to a certain level, sure, the 2 parties cannot come to an agreement, but doesn't that also have to do with the attorneys as well, not being able to kind of control their clients, if they will, and be able to come to an agreement?
Well, let's first start out at the beginning, because you draft a prenup and you're supposed to do it the right way, which means in order to do a proper prenup, you need to have disclosures. So when people get married, they may have things already. Usually prenups are for people that have already either businesses or property, real property, bank accounts, significant amount of funds. I mean, so one person usually needs to protect their assets. And if a prenup is done properly, all of those assets are disclosed so that you can then trace the money that, let's say, if you sell a property that you owned before marriage and you have a valid prenup, and that money gets placed in a separate account and doesn't get commingled with anything that might smell community. As long as it's done the right way, and that comes from who you hire to do your prenup first, because that person will say, well, you're going to have to in the future, if you sell this property, that money needs to go somewhere else so that it's not commingled with what may be community. Then you can go ahead and buy another piece of property and you've got a proper tracing. So that way, if, God forbid, you get to the point of having a divorce, you've got a clear line, it becomes less of an argument. Where it becomes an argument, or where a receiver or a partition expert would come in, is when you didn't have it done properly in the first place.
Gotcha.
And so that becomes, well, I didn't know that existed, or I didn't understand that if I sold that and the money went into the joint bank account, that would not be easily traceable, and it gets mucked up along the way, especially if you're married a really long time. If you're married a few years, it's probably a little easier to find the start.
Yeah.
If you're married 47 years, it might be a little harder to unwind it all and say, well, what did you do with that original dollar that you had framed?
Right.
So I have a question.
I may have an answer.
I'm sure you do. And we didn't rehearse it, but what's the purpose of a prenup? Why does a couple set up a prenup? I love you, I adore you, I want to spend my life with you, I want to abandon all, I want to risk everything, I want to share everything I have with you. Just do me this favor though, just sign this prenup.
Well, you have to ask yourself, what do they have from before? If somebody gets, as we're getting older and as society's getting older, people are getting married later. They're not all like you were, 18, 19 years old when you got married.
21, but go ahead.
I gave you a couple of years.
Right.
And so some people who are getting married 35, 36 years old, they may already have a lot. I understand. I want to share my life with you. I love you. However, 2 out of 3 marriages end in divorce.
Yes.
And as much as you love someone and want to be with them forever, you may want to stop and say, hold on a moment.
Just in case.
Just in case, because you hear a lot of this. Well, God forbid we get divorced. I'd like to protect.
Can you imagine walking down the aisle with somebody and he leans over and says, look, just in case we get divorced.
Well, that's not when it happens. There are procedural requirements.
Hopefully not.
In the vows.
You get the point.
And you will sign.
I want to
They're
share,
completely
let me share a
different.
different prenup with you.
No, they're completely different.
I'm going to share a different prenup. Okay?
There's
I got to
nothing-
read this prenup.
I need a whistle.
No,
I'm
there's-
reading the-
Wait. You asked a question, doctor.
Yes.
Let somebody other than yourself answer
Go
for
ahead.
a change. So there's got to be a little bit of intelligence. When you know the statistics out there, here's what happens. If your marriage is going to work, it's going to work. You're going to work at it. You're going to go to somebody who's a cognitive specialist. You're going to learn all those things that make your marriage work. The prenup then goes in a drawer, and it never matters. It's not filed. It's not recorded. It goes in a drawer. The only time it matters is when it's falling apart. Now, I don't know anybody who uses a prenup as a weapon. Well, if you don't agree with me on this choice of school, I'm going to divorce you. That's not how it's done.
Because you write a prenup with that mindset. My clients come and say, yeah, and I could have predicted this by the way you forced my hand with that stupid prenup
Why do you
15
force?
years ago.
If you do it right, you do it 3-4 months in advance. You don't wait until 6 minutes before the wedding because
Right.
we don't even allow that.
Right.
I have some people who call me and go, well, we're getting married in 2 weeks. No, you're not. Not if you want me to draft the prenup.
Because you handle it differently. I want to read a different prenup. And because I want to put a different context in this. Because we're talking about marriage and love, not simply protection and I'm vulnerable and I better protect myself. Because remember, man leaves his father and mother, he clings to his wife, they become one flesh. The couple goes to the doctor's office with his wife. Doctor says, what brings you in today? And the guy says, doctor, my wife's foot hurts us. Us. So here's the prenup. I promise to share with you in times of joy and in times of trouble, to talk and to listen, to honor and appreciate you, to provide for you and support you in trust and in love. I further promise to love you without reservation, comfort you in times of distress, laugh with you and cry with you, grow with you in mind and spirit, and cherish you always. Now let's write the prenup.
Yes.
Exactly.
I have no problem with it.
I know you don't.
Because
but
it
too many
makes
other
sense.
to you, but too many attorneys don't take that.
I also at least try to offer the idea of what is called a sunset provision. If you've been married, now in California, if you've been married longer than 10 years, it's considered a long-term marriage, which trips on the idea of spousal support being a permanent concept. You get half of pensions, you get half of, it really, that 10-year mark makes a big difference.
Right.
You also, when you're writing a prenup, you don't want to encourage people to get divorced. That's a problem.
Right.
So you've got to write it with enough intelligence and foresight to at least be able to say, okay, if you're married longer than 15 years, or if you're married 20 years, or 22 years, would you at that point say, rip the prenup up and it all becomes community property? Because obviously the longer that you're married, statistically, the better it's working. So I always try to offer different variants of what it could be. It's not just this standard 2-page where what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours and essentially bug off. I try to say, okay, well, what happens if you have children and one of you stays home and gives up their career to stay home, and then 5 years later you say, well, I'm done, I've built this empire and it started from over there, so you don't get any of it. Is that really how you want to cherish this person? Or maybe provide something. So my prenups are not, they're very tailored to the person and their circumstances. I send them home with a lot of questions. What are you really trying to accomplish with this? And I've often had a lot of people come to me with, I want a prenup to protect her stuff. I don't have anything.
What about people who come and say to you, I'm sorry, Marla, you had...
No, I actually, who have nothing.
Right.
You're getting married and you don't have anything.
Then you don't
So-
need a
but
prenup.
You don't need a prenup, but what about happens in the future, like you're saying?
That's what I
Well,
was gonna say.
in California, anything
matter
you've done
what.
during the marriage is presumed community property, unless you're going to be able to show that there was a different intention. Like, two people
went to
buy a
jail.
home. No, two people buy a home and it's under one person's title. In California, it's presumed that regardless, it's community property. But they will say, well, wait a minute, your spouse signed a quitclaim deed which says I hereby grant and divest myself of all interest. Now that's a presumption. You then have to go a little further and say, okay, well, did you or spouse explain to you that by signing this quitclaim deed, they were essentially giving up all right? If you haven't done that, somebody can come back and overturn that. So when you're saying you have nothing in the beginning, the presumption is it's all community property.
Even if you, could you come to the table, say, we have nothing, but we're going to work, and if this doesn't work out 15 years from now,
Yep.
we agree today, you get yours, I get mine?
Yes.
Would you ask them, what would make you concerned about it not working out?
Would I ask them? Probably,
I guess
because
that's-
I do more than just be an attorney. I
Exactly.
mean, 30%, 40% of my job is a little bit of
And this is what's unique about
Coaching.
Bonnie, is that she does deal with the heart and the soul of this couple. So here's
and I offer them every single time. If this is something that you're thinking about, maybe go speak to a therapist or a coach or whatever to find out where your own speed bumps are in this way. But I can understand when somebody gets married later and has built a multi-million,
Sure.
like, I hate to bring his name up into the conversation, but Mr. Trump has a little bit to lose if he gets married again. I can't imagine him not doing it.
Right.
So here's a real life case that sat in front of me about a month and a half ago, which was partly how we came to this topic. The wife said, they're in the process of considering divorce. And the wife lashed out at this guy and said, you're so weak. You didn't want a prenup. Your parents made you get one, made me sign one. She blamed her in-laws because they had all the money, not the husband, and she just saw him as a weak person, which was part of their marriage for like 18, 19 years, that she held on to this about him. It was never resolved. So when you asked that question at the beginning, what are you concerning yourself about?
I usually get people who have considerable premarital assets. I mean, like.
And they feel vulnerable to their potential spouse.
It's not that they feel vulnerable. There's the idea of, I just spent the last 15 years building an empire. And he or she, the spouse, comes in, and we're married 4 years, 5 years, and somehow all of those earnings that person hasn't contributed to, they get half just because.
So do you love me enough to understand?
I love you.
I know you do. I think our spouses are watching. Do you love me enough to say that what I brought into this, you would never touch?
Yeah, and then unfortunately in the process of
And they
divorce,
signed that.
Yes,
They
that's fine.
They signed that. Meaning the prenup is given from the heart. That the-
Yes.
but she says, well, yeah, of course. But it's not an of course situation in the real world. Prenups come from a fear and a vulnerability that you're going to rip me off and I got to protect myself.
I see where you're coming from,
It's
but on
not
the
where
flip
you'll
side,
rip me off. It's the system that you live in.
Yeah.
If you're in a different state
Yeah.
with different rules, you might have a different way of looking at
Mm-hmm.
it. But in California, which everything is community property as a presumption, and you've got to overcome that, but you don't even. Not everybody goes to law school or plans their divorce before they get married, I would hope. So when you're going through, it's like, when you have an argument with your spouse and, well, you said, you know what, I didn't know I was going to be deposed, so I didn't know I had to remember every word of
Right,
every
yes.
conversation in order to have this fight. So the same thing with getting a divorce, it's the idea that the system will make you give more than the two of you might feel is appropriate when you're in love. Though when you're no longer in love, or like I call it, you're in hate, one person gets usually very hurt, and then they get a little vindictive.
Yeah.
And that's why.
The prenup doesn't cause a divorce.
No.
It can help.
It can help keep you married. If one side is not worried about, like you say, the vindictive nature or the system or you'd be surprised how there's probably less hiding of money, bank accounts that the other one doesn't know about, business dealings on the side, because you can keep it all out in the open. It's not an issue
But if
anymore.
someone's doing that to begin with, that marriage is in deep trouble.
Well, yes.
Bonnie, what about the idea of requiring a prenup across the board? and the state of California requires everyone to sign a prenup. What about that?
Oh, well, I don't know. Blanket, I mean, if you're going to start with what the state should require, I would start with licensing before you can have children, but that's a
Yeah, or maybe like a little counseling before.
How about a
yeah.
little premarital counseling? We like that a lot.
Yeah.
you know.
Good for business.
I think if you did a blanket prenup across the board, then we'd have to change the state laws because the state law says everything is a blanket community.
I mean, when we were first sitting here talking about it, and I was thinking and listening to you guys kind of banter, I was thinking, you're entering into an agreement with this individual, a lifetime agreement, and you're on a handshake.
Isn't that what marriage is?
That's what I'm saying.
Marriage is
so
that.
to me, I've never really been a huge. I've always thought, oh, he wants a prenup, and because it does, there is some. It kind of like
There's a stigma.
There really is. It's got an identity
What
issue.
is it you think about it when you hear that? You didn't finish your sentence.
There's some trust issues there.
Exactly.
Yeah, that it becomes that there's a trust issue there. But also when you think about it, the business side, the business-minded individual of me goes, would I ever enter into any agreement without a contract?
For a lifetime.
Forever?
better yet. Yeah.
I don't even like the contracts with my mobile phone, you know?
And I bet it's even stronger in your mind. Hopefully your marriage goes on forever. But let's suppose you're like 50, 60 years old and something happens. Well, okay, 69. 69. But you're 50, 60 years and something happens. And now you're going to remarry. And you have a life of financial real estate holdings and all this and that. And your kids are looking like, Mom, this guy's a good guy, but I mean, what happens? I mean,
Yeah, my dad's on his third marriage. Mom, the fourth
marriage.
marriage.
Okay. Does he have prenup? Does he have a prenup?
Doesn't have a prenup. Hasn't gotten married yet. On his fourth. But
I'll give you my card.
you know,
She does it with heart.
not like
But isn't that-
but I'm working for my own future because I don't expect my parents to give me.
Right.
I only have one living and didn't get anything from the
Inheritance
first one.
don't.
So I don't expect, but there is part of me that's like, I want to make sure. But I also now, from that perspective, I am looking at her going, God, if he were to keel over tomorrow, God, I would want her to be protected. I would want her to get it. I would not feel entitled to that, even though she's only been in our life
I think that's unusual, don't you,
8
Bonnie?
or 10 years.
That's a very open.
She's really nice.
No, but it has nothing to do.
That's why
I
you
mean,
went to fourth.
But yeah, it has not.
Fourth
That has
Chinese
nothing to. Inheritances are exempt from it. Inheritances are inherently separate property. It only becomes a problem when you start commingling it. You take an inheritance, you put it in the joint bank account, you use it to buy a Target, you use it. If you're using it for daily living expenses, that will be considered a gift to the community because you can't trace every single dollar. But if you inherit $100,000 and put it into a property, that's a pretty easy thing to find.
So let's say the mom's dripping money out every year from the trust.
Right.
And it goes into the community bank account.
That was a nice gift, Mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, no joke.
All right. So that's how that works.
So go back to this couple that are dating. They're dating for, whatever period of time, whatever age they may be. And he comes up with the idea of a prenup. She begins to wonder, just like you do, what's going on here? Are there trust issues? And they begin to open up, it begins to open up for her in her mind other things that she begins to see. They should not be walking down the aisle so fast.
Why does it bring up trust issues? Wait a minute. If you're an intelligent person and you're marrying this person, okay, let's say, and spouse A has, like you say, a lifetime of things, real estate,
Right.
investments.
But this is
Why wouldn't the one marrying be intelligent enough to say, wait a minute, I can completely understand in today's world why you might want to protect those things that happened before I even knew you. Now, as for the things that we do together, what are we going to do about that?
What if she said, but I just am concerned. Is it that you don't trust me? All he has to do
You say no.
is explain
Yes.
where that concern comes
And
from.
how that comes into play is each of you get your own attorneys. Somebody called me the other day and said, I want you to draft a prenup. I said, great. Here's a referral for 3 attorneys for your spouse, and we're going to work together because both of you need to have your own independent advice, and from a different perspective. If I'm going to represent the spouse that has the money, I want someone who can advise the spouse that doesn't.
Is that uniquely your perspective?
That's what I was going to say. Is that required?
Or do you?
It's actually, it is required in the sense that both parties need to have independent counsel, or there needs to be a separate written disclosure that they sign a waiver. I have had 3 of my prenups tried to be challenged. Didn't work, but tried to be challenged, because it was the claim of, well, I wasn't explained enough, or she didn't tell me, and I'm able to produce the 7-page letter that goes line by line explaining what you should do, why not to do this, and if you do it anyway, sign here so you know that I explained it to you. And I always send them to the other side and say, look, let somebody else, I'll draft it, let them review it and make sure that I'm not doing something that you don't understand.
Right.
Protects all of us.
It's just interesting because I would think it would be something that you would sit down and do together. Like, okay, in this instance, how are we going to handle this?
Yes,
That's
we
how
do.
I
We
envision
can-
it.
No, but you
Right?
can start it
That's
out
called
together.
love.
You do.
Absolutely. We start it out together. I send them one, because I deal with one. I say, look, ask all the questions. What do you want to do? How do you want to do this? Do you want to give a piece here? What about spousal support? What about these
Gotcha.
things? Then once we've come up with a draft, I say, now take this.
I see.
Take this to X, Y, or Z to review it and see if they have questions as to why did you agree to this? What about that? Because it's a really important piece of paper that you hope they never need.
We've got some good comments and shout outs here. Vera Rogers said, that's my mom in the flower dress.
That's my kid.
No, that's so.
So cute.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't she supposed to be
Look,
in school?
she even signed
What
herself
time is it?
Cadence.
Exactly.
Yeah, why
Where
are you in
is she?
school?
I love you.
Tiffany said, I love that analogy. Marriage is truly a contract. And Sean Torley weighed in and said, I agree with the fundamental trust issue. Hard to be fully invested in what will become a marriage if all you can think about is protecting your physical possessions. It's kind of like, I love you, but not as much as the stuff I've accumulated
Thank
before
you,
I met
Sean.
you.
Yeah.
But okay,
Thank you,
so
Sean.
am
We're
I
on
the
the same.
only one though that thinks that it's like having car insurance? Like you hope that like you never ever have to use
Right.
it, but should you get in an accident, you're damn glad you had it, right?
Yes.
Is
Yes.
that just me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not married,
Yes.
but that's my kind of perspective
Right.
on
I
it.
think it also helps
I think that's a
frame
very
some
good analogy too.
expectations.
Sean, what do you think about that?
Sean, tell us what
analogy?
you think about that. Aw, Vera,
I love you, Mom.
Oh,
That makes me so proud.
really, that's terrific.
See, my kid doesn't care.
Yes, Claire, totally. Insurance.
Absolutely.
Of course. Tiffany Catherine. Very good.
Thanks for weighing in,
Yeah,
guys.
I think it's perspective, really.
Right.
Mine changed
Meaning the link is
a
what you
lot,
think.
really, in this sitting, in this conversation. I think that if I were in that circumstance, I would, one, require it, no matter what
And then come to me to draft.
yeah, absolutely. And then talk to you about the
Talk to me
why.
about like what's going on here. I don't trust him.
Yeah, exactly.
He's
Why don't
forcing
I?
me.
But-
But what I think again, it's like you say, it is perspective, and it is the way you think about it. I think a prenup can make a lot of sense, but it's like everything else in a relationship. It is how it's given.
Yes.
If it's given in a loving, trusting, compromising manner, not that I feel vulnerable to you. We both feel vulnerable. We're getting married. That's what marriage is. But given with heart, I think it can do great wonders.
Sean.
Sean
I
said,
love you, but
seriously?
let me call
Progressive before I marry you.
before I
Gotta get
marry
Flo on the line.
Well, if Progressive would do it so well.
Marriage insurance. I think Sean Torley is going into a new line of business now.
I think we're more with Geico here than Progressive, Sean, but thanks for weighing in. So in regards to prenups, how soon should someone be getting them? Because you did mention that you can't do it, you won't do it like 2 weeks before.
No, I mean, you should, the family code is pretty loosey-goosey. It says that you have to give a draft to a person who is not represented by counsel within a reasonable time before the marriage.
reasonable.
Yeah. To me,
Reasonable
that's right.
time.
What
To
if they're
me,
getting
that should
married
be
in an
at least a
unreasonable-
month, because you want to have enough time. You know, the attorney that you choose has other cases, so you also want to have enough time to really think about the different aspects of what it is. It's like I said, it's not always just a paragraph.
Sure.
And you also want to have enough time to go to another attorney and have them review it. Maybe there's revisions. So we always say at least a month or so.
Okay.
And the tone that you set in the negotiation carries forward to the marriage.
Okay.
Because well, think about it.
I'm hoping, I mean,
The tone that you set in the negotiation, it's not a killer tone, because that's going to set a tone.
no, it's about what are we willing to do and how are we willing to make both of you feel comfortable with what you're doing. Usually one who feels they don't have anything, they don't feel like they can say, well, I'd like that. Well, no, in my office, you can talk and say, well, if I'm going to stay home, I'd like a certain level of ability. I mean, I've had people say, people agree to put a down payment on a house. If we're married over 15 years and you've been a stay-at-home, whichever side, the other side's working, that's reasonable. If you have children, you're going to need a place to be. There's so many ways you can do it to fit your circumstances so that you walk out of there feeling like both of you were heard. And what you needed was put on a piece of paper that can stay happily in a drawer.
So let me ask you this. Can you revise it after you've been married? Is that what a post-nup is?
Post-nup, yes.
Or is it just done, like you sign your life away, this is what it is?
You can revise it. Post-nups have a little less credibility with it because you're already married.
I see.
You but I personally don't really like to touch post-nups.
Okay.
Very few attorneys like to touch prenups because it's a contract between someone who has more and someone who has less, who's giving up rights to more. That can be a lot of issues. I don't have a problem writing prenups because I've taken the years to learn through all of the different variables, and I will write what's tailored to people to make it better.
I don't know if we can scroll on the comments, Carrie, but Tiffany had a good one. There we go. She said, especially if you're getting married later in life, I think it can be a sign of love and respect for all the hard work your significant other has done and their right to keep what they've earned before you. I think signing a prenup can be a very selfless act.
Absolutely.
That's a really interesting perspective. I like that,
Yeah,
Tiffany.
that's what I was trying to say while Michael was, browbeating me is that you can... it doesn't have to be an adversarial process.
Right,
You've
that's
got to
the
really
tone you set.
consider, what this person did before meeting you that had nothing to... It's very different if you graduate college together and you build this nest together and you do it all together and you make these agreements together and blah, blah, blah. But when you've got someone who marries later in life and they've already done all this work.
Yeah.
Well, I think to Mike's point is just checking your intention
Yes.
when you go into the moment. And
Or-
what is my intention of entering this?
Redirecting their intent.
And what I would suggest to
Yeah.
couples is you ask yourself the question, both people ask a simple question, what am I worrying about? If he's the one, let's say she has everything, and she's marrying this guy who has nothing, and she wants that prenup, what is she worrying about? But by the same token, he needs to ask himself, what am I worrying about? Am I worrying that she doesn't trust me? Is she worrying that she sees something? What is she thinking? If that's discussed, and it's discussed wholeheartedly and truly in an open way, signing that prenup becomes, just as Tiffany suggests, an act of respect for each other. And it may be something that's an anchor moment in that relationship.
I think a lot of people that I see, at least if I have, what they're afraid of, is really not the other side taking them to the cleaners. It's what happens when the system almost mandates the other side taking you to the cleaners.
Yeah.
You can agree on everything, right? If you're people who get divorced, there may be one out of a gazillion who get divorced respectfully, nicely. We all sit in the room and we come to an agreement. Usually there's anger involved in getting a divorce, and angry people tend to make rash or emotional decisions that are not necessarily based on the mutual respect they had 2 weeks before they got married. And so I can understand somebody saying, okay, if it all goes well, this means nothing. But if it all goes to pot, wow.
Yeah. Right. At least you had Geico.
Yeah.
Right.
Bonnie, if someone wants to get in touch with you at Primus Family Law Group, what's the best way to do so?
You can call us at 619-574-8000, or you can reach out to us online, primusfamilylawgroup.com. And we're also on Facebook. You can reach us out there. LinkedIn, Twitter, all the stuff.
All over the place, all the
Apparently.
stuff. Dr. Michael Mantell, what's the best way to find more information about you and the book signings we can't go to?
They can read my book. This is my latest book. It's called The Link is, where is it? There, which way?
There you go.
There you
There.
go. The Link is What You Think.
He's smart, just not
Okay,
coordinated.
good. And you can buy the book. It's on Amazon. Or they can reach me at my cell phone number, 619-743-2555. They can go online to Facebook, follow me there. They can follow my Daily 5 every day. And LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, all of that.
Dr. Michael Mantell. And I'm just giggling because Sean Torley, what a hopeless romantic he is.
Isn't he, though?
Yeah, he's like, love is unconditional. You go all in.
That's because he has nothing.
Neil
I refuse to love
Sean!
Wait, do you think Neil J. Denault is proposing to me?
Yeah.
Mikey.
Yeah.
Mikey!
He wants to marry
Mike,
you.
Okay.
And Marla Hovland with City Mark Realty. First of all, what do you want people to remember from what you shared today?
Yeah, reach out to these people.
What about in real estate? You've got
Yes.
their back.
Exactly. You have your back in the event that you don't listen to these people, you don't listen to your attorneys,
And if
and the
someone
courts
gets
make
the-
you sell your home.
And if someone gets divorced, they should call you about finding another place to live.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. We
Absolutely.
build them, we'll sell them, we even rent them to you.
Yes.
We'll find a home for you.
Awesome.
Yeah. so-
And what's the best way to get in touch with you, Marla?
You can find us online as well, citymark.com or citymarkrealty.com. We're also on all of the social outlets, and my personal number is 619-518-7444.
Sean wants to know what's the number to Geico again.
You call Flo.
Thank you all so much for your
No, that's
amazing
progressive.
comments.
Thank you.
Yes, it is. Such good comments, questions. We really appreciate you all tuning in. This has been Real Talk San Diego, coming to you live from Smarter San Diego studios. We're bringing you the business of life in America's finest city. Go love everyone, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.